Most of the websites I'm building these days are WordPress based websites, and working on a Mac, I would often create the site and the theme and develop it locally, as it's known, on my machine before I set it off to the wild, or deploy it onto either a development server, a remote one for testing for the client, or pushing it to the client's live domain. So to get started, one of the things that I would like to do is have an environment where I can work locally and do all of my testing and building the theme and checking the plugins, putting the content on. So this is how I work, and I'm going to go through this as quickly as I possibly can, just to show you just how easy it is to get WordPress installed on your machine and get you up and running on a Mac using WordPress and something called MAMP. The first thing you're going to want to do is go to mamp.info, which will take you to this page, and you can download a free version of MAMP. The free version also comes bundled with a trial of MAMP Pro, and there's lots of benefits to that. I'm not going to go into that here. I use MAMP Pro, but for this I'm going to be using MAMP just to show you how to get set up without spending any money. So you're going to click on the download link, and that will create a package where you can install MAMP. I'm going to assume that you've already got that. You can see down in my tool, in my dock here, I've got MAMP installed, so I'm not going to download another version. The next thing that you want to do is come to wordpress.org and download a copy of the latest release of WordPress. So I'm going to click on the download button, I'm going to put it on the desktop, and I'm going to save that download there. So when that's installed, the next thing I want to do is come over to my installation of MAMP, which I mentioned I've already got it installed, so you'll need to run through that step. The first thing that I want you to do is go over to the preferences and look at the ports, and by default they're set this way. I prefer to use localhost as the address rather than put in all these 8s on the end, so I click this button here to change that and set the web ports and MySQL ports, and that's the first step. The next step I do is I come over to PHP. By default it's set at version 7. Now through experience I can tell you that there are many WordPress themes out there that are not working so well yet with version 7. So select this version here, 5.6.2.5, and change it to that. The web server I'm going to leave as Apache because I'm working on a Mac. That makes more sense. You do have a choice of Nginx if you need to use that. And you can also set your document root. Now what that means is where all your documents and your website files are kept. By default when you install MAMP, it goes into the Macintosh hard drive inside the applications folder where MAMP and MAMP Pro are stored, and it creates a directory automatically called htdocs for putting all your documents. So leave that as the default. MySQL, you can leave that as it is, and we're going to just click the OK button, saving all our preferences out, and now we're going to start our servers. So with our servers starting, we need to put in our username, so that goes in there. So once that starts, you can see that you've got your MySQL. You can click on the web start page and it will show you all the things that you'll possibly need to know. One of the tools that you'll want to use is PHP MyAdmin. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on our PHP MyAdmin, and the first thing that we're going to do is create a new database. So we click on the Databases tab. I'm just going to call this one Test and create it. So we've got a blank database now called Test. That's the first thing, and we'll need to we'll need to know that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unzip WordPress. So WordPress by default in this zip file will just expand to create a brand new folder, which you can see here is called WordPress. I'm going to put that into my htdocs folder here. Just make sure I haven't got another one already called WordPress. So that's in there. The next thing I need to do from that WordPress installation, I need to come to this file here, wp-config sample, and I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to choose open with, and in my case it's going to be brackets, which is my default editor. So brackets is one that you can get from from Adobe. It's a free editor, text editor. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save it with a new name. I'm going to get rid of the word sample, so saving that out into exactly the same location. There we go, it's going to be just called wp-config.php, and save that. So the next thing I'll need to do is I'll put in my database name, which is test. Then I'll put in my username, which is root, and root in here. The rest of it, for the moment, I'm going to leave as it is, just for the purposes of doing this really quickly, but I will draw your attention to this section here. When it comes to security, and you create new database installations, the table prefix for WordPress is always wp_. I would definitely recommend changing that to something else. So I've got this now saved, and closing this off. There we go, that's that done. So I can now come over to my, where are we going? There we are. And close this off, close this off. We can come now into the other tools. What have we got in here? My website. There we go. So clicking on that, and I can come to the WordPress installation. I click on that, and it automatically starts the install PHP, or you just go to this address, localhost / whatever you called the folder, wp-admin install.php. I'm going to change the installation type to English UK, press continue. That will take me to the start page where I just put in the site title. I'm just going to put test for everything here, so test, username I'm just going to call test, and I'm going to delete this just for the moment, call that test as well. It's going to tell me it's very, very weak, and I'm going to confirm useful weak password. I can put in my email address here. What is it? Here we go, info@hayesdesign.com. I'm going to discourage search engines, and I'm going to install WordPress. So this will run through the installer for WordPress really quickly, as you can see. That's it, we're done. We'll just click on login now, change this to test, and test. I can log in to my website, and you'll see I'm here in the back end of the website. If I want to view the website, there it is. So it really is as simple as that. That's all you need to get yourself up and running really quickly, installing WordPress on your local development server, in my case on a Mac.